The city, I believe, is fighting not just for the people of Chicago. We are fighting for people, this whole country. The whole country needs to be protected from tyranny and dictatorship. That is what we're fighting for. Not for me, not for you, but every single person in the United States who believes in freedom and the freedom of speech and due process.
You want to see what real independent journalism funded by the people, for the people looks like?
You ever heard a story like this in America?
You're looking at it.
Congratulations for always being somewhere where mainstream media is not.
Flint, Michigan.
See you in Nevada.
Thanks to people like you, we can get the truth. Corporate media, they've been lying to us for years, and you're going straight to the people.
You are the man. I'm glad you're here.
For as low as 16 cents a day, you'll keep us on the ground, covering the important stories the corporate media covers up.
For Status Coup, I'm JT Cestkowski on the ground here in Chicago, where you can hear and see behind me that protests are taking over the streets here in downtown Chicago as it means to push back against the Trump administration for its authoritarian assertions of ICE raids here in the city and the threats of deploying the National Guard. I've been talking to Chicagoans here on the ground in this crowd about why they're out here, if they have the energy to continue to resist who is the most powerful man in the world, the President of the United States, as long as it takes to be able to send a clear message to this administration that their presence is not welcome in the city of Chicago, and to try and win public support over to their side.
We Americans would not be able to live without immigrants, without having people do things for us, because we do not know how to take care of ourselves. And that is the truth. I come from, my mother was here undocumented. She was here for like 20-something years undocumented. And with that, her children, her 3 boys that she had, my older brothers, they all served for the Marines and the Army. And that was after they served that she decided to go ahead and get her citizenship and become an American citizen.
I was born here, but when the Supreme Court says you can be profiled based upon how you look, how you dress, I wear a lot of Mexico shirts. I am very proud of my heritage. So I'm very often wearing things that, to somebody that doesn't know, oh, is this man American or is he Mexican? The reality is I'm both, but I have this stupid piece of paper that says I have a right to be here. But according to the Supreme Court, that's not enough anymore.
All right, so this demonstration is now on the move through the streets of Chicago along Michigan Avenue near the lakefront. I've got all my gear here in my backpack, and we will be quite mobile, so you'll be able to get a real sense for what these demonstrations are like right now here on the streets of Chicago as ICE descends on the neighborhoods here in this city, and these demonstrators prepare for the potential occupation of Chicago by the National Guard. So words that I heard to describe these demonstrations from these protesters and from organizers was solidarity, was power, was unity, and you really feel it when you are in the middle of this crowd. So of course these demonstrations are in response to the Trump administration just announcing Operation Midway Blitz, which is the Department of Homeland Security saying that it is going to ramp up ICE operations here in the city. Trump is singling out Chicago because it exists in the minds of many Americans as a high crime city, something to be feared rather than celebrated, a cultural melting pot.
No, I never feel like my safety's in threat. I walk my dog, I take the public transportation to work, to the Cubs game. I go for runs by the lakefront trail. Other people are walking their dogs. I see kids walking around everywhere. It's a city, so obviously there's going to be some level of crime, and you have to be careful and keep your guard up in certain ways like you would need to for any city. But Chicago is a great place with great people, and I'm proud to be a Chicagoan.
And they also see this as Trump just deliberately sticking it to a progressive state, Illinois, progressive city in Chicago that has black leadership in Mayor Johnson and has taken steps to enact progressive policies, probably most notably bail reform in recent years. There's quite a bit of media attention here on the city right now and on these protests. A lot of it is local coverage, but I also have seen at least a few national outlets. National Public Radio is one, the New York Times is another, but just judging by the number of cameras and the number of microphones out here, it's a lot more than that. The media is doing a pretty good job of calling out the fact that the city of Chicago's crime rate has actually dropped over the last year. This is according to numbers from the Chicago Police Department. Murders are down over 30% year over year, and crime as a whole is down about 13%. The police certainly have a presence here. You see them mostly on bicycles lining the protesters here, mostly as a traffic blocking measure. There's not really a whole lot of interaction between them and the protesters, not a lot of tension, and everything seems to go pretty peacefully. The police department has said that it is not going to assist ICE in any raids conducted here. I can definitely feel that there's a lot more energy in this crowd right now for this Tuesday demonstration than there was on Saturday, the last time there was a march. That is likely due to the fact that the Trump administration actually announced Operation Midway Blitz, taking more concrete steps to intervene here in the city rather than just the threats that the president had been making up until now.
Well, we're seeing ICE disappear people off the streets. And the first time Homan sent them to Chicago, I think he was surprised how well we know our rights. They didn't deport nearly as many people as they were hoping to, so now they're trying to ramp it up. We're out here in the streets to say, hell no, we're not going to be putting up with it.
The city, I believe, is fighting not just for the people of Chicago. We are fighting for people, this whole country. The whole country needs to be protected from tyranny and dictatorship. That is what we're fighting for. Not for me, not for you, but for every single person in the United States who believes in freedom and the freedom of speech and due process.
And you've also been seeing a lot of support from folks that they pass by here on the streets and the cars that are getting held up in the traffic that it gets snarled here during rush hour. Those drivers actually supporting through honking, through raising fists of solidarity out their windows. I even saw one gentleman whip out a sign and hold it. And as a sign that this is actually part of now a larger movement and certainly not something that is a one-off, you see a lot of these signs that actually were probably meant for other protests, like the No Kings protests that got quite a bit of attendance. These are people who are repeatedly coming out into the streets to resist this administration, bringing the same sign over and over again, which makes it easily identifiable that this is a snowballing movement here and not something that is just going to happen today and then, you know, the city's going to back down. You really get the sense from these people that they are here for the fight for the long haul.
I have the endurance to go the distance, and I'll tell you why. I had a back problem, I had back surgery, I could barely make it sometimes, but I'm here. I had my acupuncture, and yesterday I had my acupuncture. Well, you know what? I was just telling my granddaughter, I hurt now, but I have to do this. If the people who are getting arrested and picked up can endure and suffer what they do, my backache is nothing, and I will do it. I said, you know, I will do it as often as I can. If I have to do it every week, I will do it every week, but I am not giving up because they cannot win. He will not win.
As long as this is happening, you know, where migrants are being snatched off the streets, there's currently a genocide in Palestine, I think these things matter, and they're not going to stop overnight. So until we're able to see some change and enact some change, I think it's gonna require us to be very boisterous.
The organizing principles on display here by the coalition against the Trump agenda, they are putting on display here is quite impressive that they are able to call out thousands of people with just about 24 hours notice. They're doing so through text, through email, on social media, getting the word out there any way that they can. And there's clearly a response, and they have roots deep here in the community from years of doing organizing, community building, and mutual aid. And those organizers tell me this is about building a broader movement. This is not just about one-off protests. And they're using these protests to carry that momentum into their other work. A lot of it is about education. At the demonstration on Saturday, there was even a call and response effort here with the crowd to get them to learn how to respond when they need to film an ICE arrest.
Film horizontally. Film horizontally. 3, narrate what you're seeing with as much detail as possible. Narrate what you're seeing with as much detail as possible.
They've also also been spreading a hotline number that folks can call when they see an ICE raid to make some of these groups aware that these raids are going on and their services might be needed to help some of these folks that are being targeted by the administration. And the organizers are adamant that they are going to continue to do this as long as they need to. They will continue to be out here in the streets organizing these protests, continue to do community education and organizing efforts to keep the energy levels up and keep the pressure on the Trump administration to withdraw itself from the city and mitigate as many of these ICE raids as possible.
I think that we will see a lot more of this, and kind of like, this is muscle that Chicago has built. We haven't just built it this year, that the community building, the coalition building between different groups in Chicago is a muscle that's been building for a long time, and we're going to be ready to flex it, as we need to in the continuing time to come.
The demonstrators are saying they're not relying on local leaders, be it at state, county, city level, to save the community. This is about them coming together, the community, and speaking with one voice.
Yes, today was really about the community and coming together. I think that there are lots of things that we want politicians saying. We want them to be loud. We want them to be very local about this and calling out this illegal occupation. But today's march was really about the community and unity and solidarity.
Now it's really just, is Donald Trump going to follow through on his threats and actually send the National Guard in here? Regardless of what happens next, you know that Status Coup is going to stay here on the ground, giving you that on-the-ground perspective and actually hearing from the activists involved, and continue to rely on an actual independent voice in all of this. One more time, for Status Coup in Chicago, I'm JT Cestkowski. May I say goodbye too early because there's still a group here gathered on the sidewalk even after the organizers have called everything to a close, still demonstrating, beating on the drums and running chants. So who knows how long they will be here. The spirit of Chicago is certainly high.